Welcome to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcasts.
The European Union wants to ban products made using forced labour, including child labour, from its internal market. Want to know more? Stay with us.
Have you ever stopped to think how the t-shirt you're wearing was produced, or the components of your mobile phone assembled?
According to the International Labour Organization, almost 28 million people are trapped in forced labour across all continents, especially in the Asia-Pacific region, of which more than 3.3 million are children.
Many of these forced labourers work within the fashion supply chain, making the textiles and garments to satisfy the demand of consumers in Europe, the US and other rich countries, but also in mining, agriculture and the services sector.
The EU is already very active in promoting decent work and freedom from forced labour through its internal and external policies, as well as international partnerships, including in the International Labour Organization, the World Trade Organization, and the G7.
For instance, the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights explicitly prohibits forced labour, including child labour, as does the European Convention on Human Rights.
And the EU has several laws in place or in preparation that address this issue, in particular on combating human trafficking and providing for sanctions against employers of migrants in an irregular situation.
More recently, the European Commission presented a proposal for new rules to encourage responsible behaviour by companies. And in 2021, together with the European External Action Service, it issued guidelines to help European companies take the right measures to address the risk of forced labour in their operations and supply chains.
Having said this, truth is that, so far, no EU law prohibits the placing and selling of products made using forced labour on the EU market, which is exactly what the new rules will ensure.
Even if they were proposed in September 2022, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen had already announced her intention to move forward with such a ban in her 2021 State of the Union address.
Doing business around the world is good, but this can never ever be done at the expense of people's dignity and freedom. So we will propose a ban on products on our market that have been made by forced labour, because human rights are not for sale at any price.
The draft law proposes a risk-based approach to identify areas and sectors for investigation to be carried out by national authorities appointed by the member states. These will have the power to investigate products for which there are well-founded suspicions that they have been made using forced labour.
If suspicions are confirmed, the products will be withdrawn from the market, banned from entering it, or exported under the watch of customs authorities.
To take into account the special situation of SMEs, authorities will need to take into account the size and resources of the companies when carrying out their investigations, as well as the risk of forced labour.
To support national authorities, the Commission will create a database of forced labour risks in specific regions or products. And to support companies, guidance and advice will be given on due diligence and on where and how to detect forced labour in their supply chains.
So what do stakeholders think about it?
While generally welcoming the proposal, business organisations such as Business Europe have raised concerns about a possible fragmentation of the single market, given the different approaches by EU countries to implementation and enforcement.
Civil society organizations, on the other hand, believe it doesn't go far enough and criticize, for example, its failure to take into account the fate of exploited workers or the fact that the burden of proof is placed entirely on the member state's competent authority. Here's Antonio Gambini from the Clean Clothes Campaign.
Forced labor is a tragic reality in the global textile and garment sector. We need serious improvements to this proposal. It's not enough to ban products. We also need remediation for harmed workers. We need more freedom of association, trade unions, and stakeholder involvement to fix the problems in a serious way. We need more transparency and traceability in the entire value chain.
The proposal now needs to be discussed and agreed by the European Parliament and the Council before it can enter into force. The European Parliament has repeatedly called for a ban on products made using forced labour. We spoke to the rapporteur in charge of this file, Maria Manuel Leitão Marques.
This regulation must be a priority for all EU institutions, first and foremost for its potential impact on the 28 million people working in forced labor across the world. Secondly, it's a matter of standing up for our values as a union. As consumers, we don't want to use products made with forced labor. And thirdly, it's a way to protect our companies from unfair competition. As rapporteur, I will try to make the proposal enforceable by authorities and simplify its application.
Want to know more? Check out Anne Altmaier's full policy brief on the EPRS website or in our app.
This is a European Parliamentary Research Service podcast.
Thanks for listening.